At 6 o'clock, the news on BBC One with Sophie Raworth.
Tonight at 6, the Prime Minister orders an urgent investigation into Peter Mandelson over his contact with Jeffrey Epstein when he was business secretary. The latest information gathered from the Epstein files appears to show that Lord Mandelson forwarded internal and highly confidential government information to the sex offender. Meanwhile, on horseback today, pressure intensifies on former Prince Andrew and his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, as yet more emerges about their relationship with Epstein. Our other top story tonight, more than 25 years after the teenager Victoria Hall was murdered in Suffolk, serial killer Steve Wright finally admits he was responsible for the teenager's death. Constantly flooded, why a council is now buying this row of terraced houses in South Wales.
The Grammy goes to Olivia Dean.
And we visit London's Brit School after its big hitters, like Olivia Dean, take top prizes at the Grammys.
Also this hour, the huge pile of fly-tipped rubbish blighting a Hertfordshire farm for more than 6 months. But the landowner says they can't afford to get rid of it.
Good evening. The Prime Minister has urged Lord Mandelson to leave the House of Lords, and now police are facing growing calls from Reform UK and the SNP to investigate claims that Peter Mandelson leaked sensitive government information to Jeffrey Epstein, who was a convicted sex offender. More than 3 million documents were released by the US Justice Department on Friday. Since then, more and more revelations have come to light. Among them today, the suggestion that in 2010, when he was business secretary, Peter Mandelson gave Epstein, who was a financier, advanced warning of a planned €500 billion bailout by the EU. The BBC has approached Lord Mandelson. Here's our political investigations correspondent, Joe Pike.
We knew about the politician and the paedophile's social links, their alleged financial links. But did the relationship extend to misconduct at the heart of the UK government, with Mandelson leaking financially sensitive information to Jeffrey Epstein? In 2010, Peter Mandelson was the business secretary and effectively deputy prime minister to Gordon Brown. And it seems he gave Jeffrey Epstein advance notice of an enormous EU bailout. Epstein emailed Mandelson, "Sources tell me €500 billion bailout almost complete." A reply, seemingly from Mandelson, said, "should be announced tonight." Hours later, EU finance ministers did indeed approve a bailout. Catherine MacLeod was one of the top advisors in the Treasury at the time.
It was a huge breach of confidence. It was giving Jeffrey Epstein inside information that would be valuable in the markets. And it was just a great betrayal and breach of trust.
On another occasion, a government policy advisor wrote an email to Gordon Brown about selling off government assets, suggesting releasing value from the very substantial asset base which the government holds. Mandelson was copied in and forwarded that email to Epstein, saying, "Interesting note that's gone to the PM." Epstein replied asking, "What saleable assets?" A response seemingly from Mandelson said, "Land property, I guess." Jeffrey Epstein was a financier who may have been able to enrich himself with the benefit of this confidential information. Peter Mandelson has not responded to a request for comment, but has previously questioned some documents' authenticity, said he regrets ever knowing Epstein, and apologised unequivocally to the women and girls who suffered. The Prime Minister has now asked the UK's top civil servant to investigate these contacts, and he'd like Mandelson to resign his peerage. Keir Starmer now wants Mandelson out of the House of Lords, yet he wanted him as US ambassador even when he knew the Labour peer had been friends with Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein's conviction for abusing girls as young as 14. Yes, the Prime Minister sacked Mandelson as ambassador in September, but he didn't chuck him out of the Labour Party. Mandelson resigned himself last night. This whole grubby affair hasn't just prompted questions about Peter Mandelson's judgment, but Keir Starmer's too.
Prime Minister! Yeah.
The PM updated MPs about his recent trip to China today, but opposition parties wanted to talk about something else.
The Prime Minister's rightly said that Mandelson should resign from the other place. But since he hasn't, will he back a simple piece of legislation to strip him of his peerage? Surely this House could pass it tomorrow.
Does he agree with myself that Peter Mandelson should be subject to a police investigation for potential criminality whilst in public office?
Starmer didn't answer either of those questions, and Mandelson has not responded to a request for comment on the allegation of potential criminality. Later, a senior minister set out the government's position.
Peter Mandelson must account for his actions and conduct. It is an understatement, Madam Deputy Speaker, to say that his decision to continue a close relationship with a convicted paedophile, including discussing private government business, falls far below the standards expected of any minister.
The government cannot hide from its responsibility in having made Mandelson its ambassador in the first place. This was a political appointment. It happened only because of political pressure. And so one of two things must be true, Madam Deputy Speaker. Either there was the most terrible failure of the vetting system, or the government chose to brush that vetting information away.
The government may now be investigating contact between this pair, but with millions of Epstein documents now in the public domain, this embarrassing saga is now out of Number 10's hands. Sophie, the revelations keep coming hour by hour, and even with everything we've known about Peter Mandelson's character and career, the new information remains jaw-dropping. This Epstein-Mandelson saga has been ongoing for a matter of months, but overnight I think it shifted from being about his judgment, about this social and financial relationship that seems pretty problematic, to now being potentially about a serious abuse of power. Now, as I said in my report, Mandelson's not responded to our request for comment on these allegations. He's previously questioned the authenticity of some of the Epstein files, but suddenly this story, I think, seems a lot more serious, and potentially, Sophie, the consequences could be very serious too.
Joe Pike, thank you. Well, also amongst the latest release of files is an email congratulating Jeffrey Epstein on the birth of his child, though until now it was understood he didn't have children. The email, signed off by Sarah and believed to be sent by the former Duchess of York, was sent to the convicted sex offender in 2011. Meanwhile, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is also coming under ever more scrutiny over his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, as our senior Raw correspondent Daniela Relf reports.
From Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, no sense of hiding away today. Waving to passers-by on the town's long walk, driving away from the castle. And also on horseback, riding through the castle grounds, something he's been doing most weeks since being sent into royal exile. The latest drop of material from the Jeffrey Epstein files has further tarnished the former prince's damaged reputation and that of his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson. In one photo, a barefoot Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is seen crouching on all fours over an unidentified woman. It's not clear what was happening here, but it's believed to be inside Epstein's home in New York. The photos come alongside allegations from a woman who claims that she was sent to Windsor to have sex with Andrew at his home, Royal Lodge, the first time a royal residence has appeared in this context. He has not responded to these claims. Every photo, every email adds to the pressure on Andrew to cooperate with the US authorities.
He's not the one who should decide whether he knows anything that could help in the investigation. I am saying, on behalf of many of the survivors, he should speak to Congress. He should speak to law enforcement. It's not too late.
References to Princess Beatrice and Eugenie also feature in the files. Their mother, Sarah Ferguson, emails Epstein, joking about Eugenie's sex life, asks him for money for rent, and calls him the brother she always wished for. But the exchanges also show cracks in the relationship. In a 2011 email, Sarah Ferguson mentions the birth of a child. Heard from the Duke, she emails that you have had a baby boy. Even though you never kept in touch, I still am here with love, friendship, and congratulations on your baby boy, Sarah. There remains no public record of Jeffrey Epstein being a father. The BBC understands that the King, who's been at Sandringham, did not know the level of detail in the latest files. which clearly reveal the depth of the relationship between his brother and Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, Danielle is with me now. More and more revelations. What is Buckingham Palace saying about all of this?
Well, Sophie, Buckingham Palace has not made any official comment today on the latest revelations. As I've just said in my report, it seems that they are actually learning about some of this material at the same time as the rest of us. They're not getting advance notice or knowledge of exactly what's going to be in the latest batch of the Epstein files. But there is now real pressure on Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to cooperate with the authorities. Palace sources have told me today that anyone with any relevant information should share what they know. It's very much what we had already heard from the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. But on the former prince specifically, a royal source has said that providing testimony is now a matter for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and his conscience.
Daniela Ralph, thank you. More than 25 years after the teenager Victoria Hall disappeared after a night out in Suffolk, the serial killer Steve Wright has admitted kidnapping and murdering her. The 17-year-old's body was found in a ditch 5 days after she failed to return home in September 1999. Steve Wright went on to murder 5 more women in Ipswich 6 years later. Today was the first time he had admitted to killing anyone. His confession, though, came too late for Victoria's mother, who had spent decades campaigning to find her daughter's killer. She died last December. Joe Black reports.
Victoria Hall was just a teenager when she died. She was a sixth form student with a desire to go to university. But after a night out in Felixstowe, she was murdered. In September 1999, Victoria and a friend walked home from a nightclub on the seafront, stopping along the way to get chips. After the 2-mile walk to Trimley St Mary, the two friends parted company here. It would have taken her just a few minutes to get home, but she never made it. 5 days later, a dog walker discovered her naked body in a roadside ditch 25 miles away. For decades, the case went unsolved. There were numerous appeals, including appearances by her family on the BBC's Crime Watch programme.
Just think how frightened she was and how terrible it was all alone to be taken like that.
We'd had a week of waiting, and you always have a hope that they're going to find her alive.
By that time, we knew the answer.
The case also generated years of news coverage. 2 years after Victoria's death, a man called Adrian Bradshaw went on trial for her murder, but he was cleared by a jury. In 2019, 20 years on from Victoria's disappearance, police reopened the case after receiving fresh information. Today, all these years later, Steve Wright has said he was responsible for Victoria's murder. This was him in 2008, after he was convicted and handed a whole life jail sentence for the murders of 5 women who worked as sex workers in Ipswich. In 2006, they went missing. Weeks later, their bodies were discovered in December of that year. They were aged between 19 and 29.
Wright initially denied being responsible for Victoria Hall's death, and today was supposed to be the opening day of his trial here at the Old Bailey. But moments after he entered the dock, he changed his pleas and said he was guilty.
He also admitted to the attempted kidnap of a 22-year-old woman that same weekend 26 years ago. For Victoria's family, justice did not come quickly. Today, all these years on, they have some answers.
Victoria Hall's father and brother were in court today to see Wright enter those pleas. But a sad feature of this case is that her mother was not, because as you were just saying there, she died just before Christmas. On Friday, we'll learn more about this investigation, which was reopened 6 years ago, and after that, Wright will be sentenced.
Joe Black, thank you. Well, Steve Wright's guilty plea leaves the uncomfortable question as to whether there are any other unsolved murders that he could be linked to, though so far he has not been arrested in any other cold case investigation. Here's our UK correspondent, Daniel Sanford.
Steve Wright's admission that he murdered Victoria Hall and attempted to kidnap Emily Doherty the night before has dramatically expanded the time period of his known crimes from a few weeks to 7 years. It was in Felixstowe in the early hours of the 18th of September 1999 that he tried to abduct Emily Doherty. The next day, he now admits, he murdered Victoria Hall after kidnapping her close to her home just outside Felixstowe. There was then a gap of 7 years before we know he killed again. For almost all of that time, he was living in Felixstowe and Ipswich with his then partner Pamela Wright, who worked nights. Then in 2006, he killed Tanya Nicol, who disappeared in Ipswich on the 30th of October. Then Gemma Adams on the 14th of November, and then in early December, with increasing frequency, he killed Annalie Alderton, Annette Nichols and Paula Clennell. All 5 women were known to be sex workers. Wright and his partner had moved to this house in a part of Ipswich known for prostitution just before Tanya Nicol was killed.
I think it was always likely that Steve Wright was responsible for murders prior to the sequence of murders in Ipswich in 2006. He's a serial killer. In my experience, serial killers don't start killing in their late 40s, and Steve Wright in 2006 was 48.
Steve Wright lived multiple lives, including having a son from his first marriage and a stint as a steward on the QE2, working on the cruise ship at the same time as Susie Lamplugh, who went missing in 1986. He's been ruled out of that investigation. Seen here in Thailand, he was a frequent user of prostitutes there. He later admitted to Pamela Wright that he regularly used prostitutes in England too. He's been linked speculatively to the disappearance of Mandy Duncan in Ipswich in 1993 and the unsolved murder of Kelly Pratt in Norwich in 2000, but he's never been arrested in either investigation. And even if he's not responsible for any other murders, Steve Wright is among the worst British serial killers of the 21st century. Daniel Sandford, BBC News.
The time is just after 6:15. Our top story this evening. The Prime Minister orders an urgent investigation into Peter Mandelson over his contact with Jeffrey Epstein when he was business secretary. And coming up, the Russian captain of a cargo ship that collided with a tanker in the North Sea is found guilty of gross negligence manslaughter.
And later at 6:30, find out why this train got rail enthusiasts excited this weekend in West London. And why the oldest Indian restaurant in the country is taking its plea to stay open to the King.
Now, thousands of people have had to deal with flooding across the UK since the start of this year. In South Wales, this row of houses is now so prone to flooding that the local council has decided to buy them. The properties were extensively damaged during previous storms, but officials say there's no point in building a flood defence wall. It's too expensive. Jonah Fisher reports.
Destined for demolition, a street in South Wales that flooding has made unsafe for human life.
The water at the height of the flood was up to here.
Rebecca was at home when Storm Dennis struck in 2020.
And literally had to jump off the 3rd step down to swim into the water to get out through the door.
This is what it looked like that night and the following morning as the river which Claddock Terrace faces filled the street.
All underwater.
This was the inside of Paul Thomas's house.
You name it, everything was floating about. I didn't know which was up, down, left or right.
Since then, the residents have been stuck in limbo, struggling to get insurance, unable to sell up. And when it rains, the constant fear of more floods.
It's a living hell. We don't live, we exist in Claddock Terrace.
Before coming to this decision, the authorities looked at whether it might be possible to better protect the homes here on Claddock Terrace. But with climate change set to bring warmer, wetter winters and more intense storms, it was decided that they'd have to build this wall 4 metres tall in places to stop the river coming in from the other side. And that was deemed to just be too expensive.
How are you feeling? Anxious?
This afternoon, Rebecca and Paul were there as the council voted unanimously to buy the 16 homes at a cost of £2.5 million.
Long time coming. It's gone the only way it could have gone for us to give us any hope.
It's just a sense of like, it's done now.
A big relief.
Big relief, massive.
This is an extreme example, but the dilemma of whether to protect or retreat in the face of a changing climate isn't going away. Jonah Fisher, BBC News in South Wales.
Israel says the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt is now fully open. But the number of Palestinians being allowed to return is being limited to 50 a day, with similar numbers of medical evacuees going to Egypt. Opening the crossing, which has largely been closed since 2024, is part of the second stage of President Trump's peace plan for Gaza. The Russian captain of a cargo ship that collided with a tanker in the North Sea has been found guilty of gross negligence manslaughter. The Solong hit the US tanker Stena Immaculate off the East Yorkshire coast last March. Our transport correspondent Katie Austin reports.
The moment of impact. Shocked crew of the Stena Immaculate fuel tanker react. On the bridge of the Solong cargo ship, which had crashed into it, quiet. After about a minute, its Russian captain Vladimir Motin calls out.
Both vessels are abandoning. Vessel Stena Immaculate is carrying Jet A1 fuel, which is on fire.
The Solong was ravaged by fire after colliding with the tanker. Just look at the extent of the damage. The tanker was left with a gaping hole. 38-year-old Filipino national Mark Pernia, who had been on the bow of the Solong, died. Motin, the captain of the Solong for 15 years, had been on watch duty alone. During his trial, he insisted he hadn't fallen asleep or stepped away. He was aware of the Stena Immaculate on his radar from at least 9 nautical miles away, but didn't slow down or change course. At 1 nautical mile away, he said he tried to take back manual control from autopilot, but pressed the wrong button.
I find that account ludicrous. He is a very, very experienced master mariner. It's something that he would have been able to do blindfolded. He knows the risk is there, and he fails to take any action.
There were a string of failures by Motin, including deactivating a system designed to warn of inactivity on the bridge. He did not alert his own crew or the other vessel that a collision was imminent. His negligence led to a tragic and avoidable loss of life. Katie Austin, BBC News.
Some men are covertly filming women on nights out, posting the footage on social media and making thousands of pounds by doing so. A BBC investigation has unmasked some of the people behind the accounts and uncovered an industry that experts say could be worth millions. Many of the women are unaware they've been filmed. Shona Elliott has more.
It was just a normal night out for us. We were completely oblivious to everything that was going on.
Grace was out celebrating her friend's 21st birthday with her sister Sophie when they were filmed without their knowledge.
That's me.
The footage ended up on social media and was viewed by millions of people.
Look at how low he's got the camera there.
Yeah. If I was just on a night out with my girls, I wasn't doing anything bad, and to be filmed from such a low angle, it makes me look bad.
We identified the man who filmed the sisters as Florian Reka, a 35-year-old living in Sweden who's behind one of the most popular YouTube channels.
It has nearly 200 million views and over 400,000 subscribers. Videos that he films over Halloween in this city bring in millions of views.
We went undercover in Manchester in October to see if we could spot him. At 2 a.m. we saw Mr. Reka. He was with another man we identified as his brother, Roland. He runs a similar account. They appear to film women discreetly, holding cameras at waist height. We saw 3 other men filming. Hours after we left, footage from Halloween began appearing online. We contacted all of the men we saw, but only 2 responded. Both denied any wrongdoing. We still hadn't heard from Mr. Reka, so we flew to Sweden to try to speak to him.
How far away are we now?
About 7 kilometres.
Hopefully, we're going to be able to put some questions to him finally. Flori Recchi, we're from the BBC. Why are you filming women without consent?
5 minutes later, he was out again, running away. He didn't give us any answers. Mr. Reka's account is one of many that makes money from posting on YouTube.
A video with 1 million views could generate between £3,000 and £5,000, which translate into multi-million businesses for the content creators.
Right there
is exactly where we got filmed, just right by where that door was.
Anna Rose was out in Manchester with a work friend when she was filmed. This is the video. It was filmed 2 years ago and the original has been deleted, but the clip is still circulating on multiple social media accounts.
It's uncomfortable because you think it's been deleted, but then it's just there again and you just know your face is on somebody's phone.
Filming in public is rarely a crime, but there are concerns that some of this footage could amount to harassment. We contacted YouTube with details of our findings. They've deactivated 2 accounts linked to Florian Recker. TikTok has banned 4 accounts we identified and says it doesn't allow non-consensual sexual imagery on its platforms. Shona Elliott, BBC News.
The Foreign Office has revoked the accreditation of a Russian diplomat in what it described as a reciprocal move after a similar action by Moscow. The government summoned the Russian ambassador after a British diplomat was expelled from the country last month. The Foreign Office said it condemned the decision and described any allegations against its staff as baseless. Now, if you regularly watch BBC News, you'll see our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, reporting from Moscow and beyond. And tonight's BBC Panorama is about how Russia has become one of the most hostile places in the world to be a journalist, where reporters can face threats of intimidation, expulsion and imprisonment. The programme follows Steve's life as Russia editor over the past year.
Certainly over the last 10 years, I'd say, regularly, when we've gone out of Moscow, there have been cases where clearly we've been followed and the same figures appear at the street corners watching you.
And you can watch Panorama, Our Man in Moscow. It's on now on BBC iPlayer. You can also watch it on BBC One at 8 p.m. tonight. The music industry's prestigious Grammy Awards took place last night. Album of the Year went to Bad Bunny, the first Latin artist to win the prize in the award's 68-year history. Billie Eilish won Song of the Year for Wildflower, and it was a great night for British artists, including Olivia Dean, who was named Best New Artist, Lola Young, who picked up the award for Best Pop Solo Performance, and for FKA Twigs, who won Best Dance Electronic Album. She, like Olivia Dean and Lola Young, studied at the famous Brit School in South London. David Silito has been to visit the place that helped them to stardom.
The Grammys, the biggest night in the music calendar. And the big winners?
Olivia Dean.
So yeah, we're nothing without each other. Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you so much. Bye.
And Lola Young.
I very much relate to this song, Messy, Lola Young.
Both former pupils of the same school.
I don't know what I'm going to say because I don't have any speech prepared. Obviously I don't. It's messy, do you know what I mean?
The Brit School near Croydon in South London has an extraordinary wall of fame. Adele, Amy Winehouse, Tom Holland. But this year, a cohort of former pupils have been showered with awards. And watching it all was Conor Doherty.
I can come and start
So that's Olivia.
And then I'm just too damn clean. You told me
that's Lola.
You taught her as well?
Yep.
Conor, looking at Lola there, you taught her?
Yeah.
Nick, we did it, Mum. I love you, everybody.
And that's her all over. We don't make sort of copies of young performers. Our students are individual, and we encourage that.
Everyone's unique. All free.
It's all free. It's
You're
all
a state
free.
School.
And there is a misunderstanding about this school that it's a normal state school.
It sort of proves something, do you think?
If you give people a chance. So you're giving access to education, to arts education, to absolutely anybody. And if they come here and they're willing to put the hours in and work hard at their craft, then it shows where you can get to.
And it's been an inspiring day for the next Brit generation watching Olivia and Lola.
You can just tell how happy she is, and how grateful she really is to win an award like just as big as that. For a Grammy Award is insane.
Well, it's powerful, they walk these same halls.
It really opens the opportunities to anyone. I don't think it should be a privilege to understand music, it should just be a skill.
In an age when access to arts education is all too often a fee-paying privilege, a reminder of what can happen when people get a chance. David Siletto, BBC News, Croydon.
Let's have a look at the latest weather now. Ben Rich is here. We've got another week of rain, really, haven't we?
Yeah, and a bit of snow in the mix as well, Sophie, believe it or not. But we really don't need any more rain. The ground is very wet in many places right now. Here are some statistics that might help to explain why. From the Met Office, Northern Ireland had its wettest January in 149 years. And in County Down, as well as in Cornwall, it was the wettest January on record as a powerful jet stream brought numerous rain-bearing weather systems our way. But the jet stream has now dug its way southwards. That is going to make for a very wet and windy week in Spain and Portugal. And what it means for us is that actually at times we'll start to drag in some very, very cold air that's been in place across northern Europe. So that may mean that especially over high ground in the north of the UK, we see a little bit of snow. In fact, some snow over high ground in Scotland through tonight, more like rain close to the coast, exposed to this southeasterly breeze. And outbreaks of rain spreading across the south and the southwest of England up into Wales. Temperatures generally staying above freezing because there is going to be a lot of cloud through the night and it stays quite blustery. So into tomorrow, a lot of cloud around, best of any sunshine, I think, across the western side of Scotland. But for eastern Scotland, rain on the coast, snow over high ground inland. That snow really starting to pile up. And across Wales, the Midlands, southern England, some outbreaks of quite heavy and persistent rain, which could again turn to snow over the highest ground later in the day. Temperatures around 3 to 7 degrees, maybe just 11 in the far southwest. Now, as we go through tomorrow night, this rain continues to push northwards. The hills of Wales, northern England could see some snow, certainly some snow above 200 or 300 metres elevation across parts of Scotland, and actually snow to very low levels across Shetland. So we could see some disruption from snow in some northern parts of the UK. Elsewhere, plenty more rain through the rest of the week. Sophie.
Thank you very much. That's it from us on the BBC News at 6. Right now, it is time for the news where you are. Goodbye.